What's up, everybody? This is Dave here with Comics Games Life, and today's video is on Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 3. Now, this issue picks up exactly where issue number 2 left off, with Diana facing the tetracide, and we also got the introduction to Steve Trevor, a pretty well-known character in the Wonder Woman universe. Now we have Diana, so she's facing the tetracide, but she's not facing it head-on. She hasn't pulled out her sword and start, fighting it just yet. She's actually casting a spell over it. And this is actually captured by the film crew who is on the coast or on the beach of Gateway City filming everything that's going on, and it's being broadcast live. And as the broadcast is being picked up everywhere in the city, and what we're going to see is that it's being also watched in Gateway City's museum. And there's a certain particular person there who is watching it, and this woman is Barbara Minerva. If you know who that character is, you understand that how important she is to Wonder Woman's storyline. In the main universe, she is the character Cheetah, and she is one of Wonder Woman's main villains. But now here in the Absolute universe, I'm really curious if that's the way it's going to go. I hope it's not. Not necessarily saying that I hope they become partners or friends or anything like that. But since they have so much leeway in this new Absolute universe, they can really just do whatever they want. So I'm hoping for the unexpected, something interesting, something different. Although there are certain things that we do see that they just pretty much mirror the traditional Prime universe, but then other things are taken, with complete creative freedom, and so far it's been pretty good. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do with the character of Cheetah in the Absolute Wonder Woman universe. But moving on from that, so she sees Wonder Woman doing her thing on the TV screen, and she just bolts out the door. And then it fast forwards to Wonder Woman walking away from the beach after her interaction with the tetracide, and she walks into the tavern where the rest of the military members are, as well as Steve Trevor. And she goes in, and they're wondering what's going on. What did she do? Did she stop it? But she tells them that no, all I did was slow it down. And then she starts to remind them of the importance of getting out of the city, because she goes into a little bit of detail as to what exactly the tetracide does to its victims. So the first thing that it does is emit this sound. She mentioned that in the previous issue as well. But whatever this sound is, it causes all those who hear it to pretty much lose fear of the tetracide, and they're actually drawn to it like a moth to a flame. So much so that when they run toward it, like there's been instances where they literally just trample over each other. And she even says that for those who are actually trampled to death under this stampeding human tidal wave to get to the tetracide, those are the lucky ones, because the ones who actually make it to the tetracide, they walk right up into his jaws, and she says that it destroys them or it kills them, mind, body, and soul. And the death that they experience while inside of the tetracide mouth is one of complete, utter agony. So yeah, this thing is a walking apocalypse, what it seems to be. So at this point, Diana is breaking down exactly what I just said and how this thing operates and why it's so important for them to evacuate the city, for no one to hear this sound. And once again, gives the command for all of them to evacuate the city as quickly as possible. And then she walks back out of the tavern, because now it's her time to go toe-to-toe with this thing. And she knows she is no match for it. This is a suicide mission. This is a one-way trip. And she turns to Pegasus and gives him the plan to keep your distance and to just use your hellfire. Just stay away from this thing, because if it kills you, there's a good chance Zeus isn't going to resurrect you a second time. So at this point, she launches her attack. The first thing she does is launch Athena's sword straight into the tetracide. And the sword looks huge when she's holding it, but compared to the tetracide, it looks like a splinter. And so the next thing she does is take her lasso, which is attached to Athena's sword, and wraps it around the tetracide. Now, this is what I thought she was going to do. It's kind of what I expected based after her explanation of how her new lasso works in issue number 2, where it inflicts equal amount of pain and damage to the creature that creature has inflicted on innocent people that it's killed and tortured and maimed. We can see by how the creature's reaction, the scream that it's emitting, that it's inflicting pain on it. It's definitely doing something, but it doesn't seem powerful enough to actually stop or destroy it. And when the creature plucked out Athena's sword from its hide, it was able to kind of free itself from the lasso and was attacking Diana with its tentacles, and it's trying to catch her and wrap her around her. And since she lost her sword, she goes back into her bag of holding and pulls out this giant axe and starts hacking away at these tentacles. But that only works for so long until she's captured by it. Now, at this point, the scene cuts off because we're going to find out a little bit more about Diana's origin and history in this new Absolute universe. So just like in issue number 2, where we saw that flashback, is where this one picks up, where Diana is going toe-to-toe with the Hydra that tried to steal Steve Trevor and take him underwater. And so they're going at it, and Steve even joins in the fray when he pulls out Diana's axe and he's trying to hack away at it. But eventually their power and strength pretty much persuade the Hydra to kick rocks and go fight another day. And so the next thing that happens is Steve and Diana, they sit down, have a fire, and they start talking over things. And one of the things that Steve is impressed by is the fact that everything in hell is trying to kill you, eat you, and destroy you. However, Cersei and Diana, they're able to carve out this special little homestead that's relatively peaceful. And he just thinks that's amazing. And she goes about telling him how the power of love is the reason why they're able to keep that and to hold that, and how transformative it is. And he kind of shares his own opinions about that and how he feels about his home. And he actually is from Gateway City, which the current events are taking place in. And he goes on to talk about the love he has for his mother and how the sun on the coast of Gateway City reminds him of her laugh. And, they're just kind of sharing a moment together, which this isn't the only time that they've done that during their time in hell together. And the next thing we see is Diana slamming a book closed, and she read something that has her a little disturbed. And so she tells Steve right away to go outside and collect some firewood. And while he's out, she goes up to Cersei and she tells her that she's found a way to send Steve home. And as Cersei is reading through the text, she's thinking that, I think you misread this. And Diana's like, no, I know what I read. Then Cersei's like, okay, well, then you don't understand it because the sacrifice is much too great. And she kind of ends it at that because Steve comes back in. And so the rest of the night just goes on. And then in the middle of the night, Cersei is actually woken by Diana sitting by the fireplace. And she's wondering what's going on. And Diana is saying that because of what she read, she can't get that out of her head. And she goes on to say that if I'm the last Amazon, if I'm this great warrior, and so the sacrifice that this spell demands, I believe that I can meet. And so what she had done was cut off her dominant arm as a sacrifice to send Steve home. She has like a little nub on her shoulder now. And Cersei is freaking out like, what did you do? And Diana is like, I did what is necessary to send Steve home, because she feels that this is a worthy thing to do. This is something a hero would do. And so we see it. Some time has passed. I don't know if it's the next day, but they're out there, they're doing their incantation, and Steve's wondering what's going on. And all of a sudden he starts to fade away out of the plane of hell that he's currently in, and somehow makes his way back to Earth, where we jump back into current events, because now we know that even though Diana is entangled by the tentacles of the tetracide, the arm that's all bound up by one of these tentacles is the arm that she sacrificed. And so what she does is she speaks some sort of spell, which I guess releases the magical arm that she currently has, and that disappears. So the tetracide no longer has her in its grasp, and she's able to escape. And we see her fly back down to the beach and make her way back into the tavern. And when she gets there, Trevor sees her arm missing, and he knows that didn't just happen because it's completely healed. But then he puts 2 and 2 together and realizes she sacrificed her arm to send him home. But as to not be left unarmed, Diana reaches into her bag of holding and pulls out like this mechanical, sort of robotic looking arm. And then she begins to tell the whole room that you have got to get out of here. So it's like the 3rd or 4th time she's telling these guys to leave. And at this point, I mean, they reap what they sow. If they're not leaving, then they're just going to have to deal with the consequences. But Steve Trevor, he is telling her, like, he doesn't want to leave her. Like, he understands the sacrifice she made, and he wants to just be that same thing for her. But then she goes on to say that because of your attitude and how you are and your character and your bravery, you are worthy of that sacrifice. But for my sacrifice to not be in vain, please, you need to live. And she just encourages him to leave. And that's the last we see of Steve Trevor. And as soon as Diana walks out of the tavern, boom, she runs right into Barbara. Well, more like Barbara runs right into her. And Diana catches her and picks her up. And then she begins to tell her, you know what? It's not safe for you to be here. Go back into this bar and speak to a man named Steve Trevor, and he will get you out of here as soon as possible. And she begins to walk towards the beach to go fight the tetracide. But then Barbara says something that catches her eye and calls her Wonder Woman. And this makes Diana stop in her tracks. And Barbara goes on to explain that she knows that she's an Amazon. And the title of Wonder Woman is what they give their best warrior. And so Diana is kind of caught off guard. And she asks her, you know about the Amazons? So we learned that Barbara, she has a PhD and she's an expert in Greek mythology, similar to how she is in the Prime universe. You know, as enthralled and curious as Diana is about Barbara and the things that she knows she still has to go fight this monstrous beast. So she tells her that she'd love to talk to her later. You know, Barbara goes ahead and says, my name's in the book. And Diana's like, I don't know what that means, but I'll figure it out. And so she goes and flies off and goes and faces the tetracide. And then she gets to the beach and she knows that she's facing her final moments, that she's not going to live through this battle. But then she starts to think and she's reminded on how the tetracide attacks. And then she gets kind of a crazy idea. So instead of continuing making her way to the tetracide, she backtracks and she goes back to that news crew that's been filming everything, that one news anchor and that one cameraman. And she takes them up to what seems to be the tallest building in Gateway City. And she starts drawing some sort of circle and doing another type of incantation. And when she's done doing whatever she's doing, they turn on the cameras and she starts to film a message. And she pretty much tells everyone who's listening, please don't panic. I'm about to make everyone in this city deaf. And wherever you are, just stay calm. For those who haven't heard this message, give them comfort, give them something to believe in. Just keep everyone in a place where they're safe and tucked away. And there's not going to be chaos and anarchy or anything like that. And then she asks the news team to keep that message on a loop. And hopefully this will be enough to calm everybody's nerves. And then she ends the message with, I know everyone out there can do this. Wonder Woman believes in you. And then she smashes her potion in the circle that she made. And then we see this huge covering of the city of this potion. So I'm assuming whatever that circle did and that incantation that she spoke, it magnified this thing times 10 to be able to cover everyone in the city, to make everyone who, I guess this thing oversees or passes over makes deaf. So when the tetracide does put out that sound, no one's going to be running to it to their certain agonizing death. Now, this is the end of issue number 3. So in issue number 4, we're going to see exactly what happens and if this really did work and if there are any stragglers, and possibly see the consequences to those who weren't able to, I guess, go deaf. It's going a little slow, but to be honest with you, the more issues that come out, the more pieces are being put together, and I am starting to see the bigger picture and I'm liking what I'm seeing. So if you guys are having a good time listening to these videos, go ahead and like, share, subscribe, do all that other crazy YouTube stuff. I really, truly appreciate it. Don't forget to support your local comic and game shops because they need it. Man, they truly do. As time goes on, those things are starting to become dinosaurs. So do what you can to help them out. I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.